Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to the Robot Wars History Podcast, a podcast where we chart the development of the show and talk about key teams and robots. Today, we have a very interesting episode because it's not Luke hosting, it's me. Luke's still here though, aren't you, mate?
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah, and we did need a third person. Dan doesn't like Steel Avenger
So
enough.
I filled in. Hello, it's the Dan Beaver.
Yeah, so Ollie's
For
here.
some reason.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we exactly pushed him to be on this episode.
I was
but we
happy
needed
to
someone.
be around at this time, and I just thought, hey, you know what? Steel Avenger is a robot that exists.
Yeah, it's a robot that was around, and you're a podcast member that was around as well, so we'll take you.
I'll take what I can get.
Anyway, the Steel Avenger itself is the machine we are onto today. If you want to know something about the team, as an interesting tidbit to introduce you to them, they are also known as not just Team Steel Avenger, but in Series 3 to 4, they were called the Pneumatic Fanatics. So we know they are full of humour. And the team...
I don't like the sound of Pneumatic Fanatics.
Yeah.
It sounds off.
Yeah.
It sounds
And
very off.
the team, despite in Series 3 and 4 having a guy called Kevin Cockerill, who were mostly known for having John Willoughby, Jackie Willoughby, and honestly, I searched this up earlier. This guy is always referred to by the team as being Tony. I couldn't remember his last name for the life of me, but he is called Tony Bates. So we'll go with that. But the Steel Avenger itself comes in with its axe. It was a rather pointed axe, shall we say, in Series 3. Rather a long point rather than the blade, which it was longer accustomed for as the show went on. But the design itself of the machine remained pretty much the same throughout. In Series 3 itself, we were treated to no see-through polycarb. It was just straight up aluminium and stainless steel panels all over.
It feels so weird just seeing it not actually see-through.
Yeah.
It almost feels completely a different robot, and I'm just like, no, give me the Steel Avenger that we just kind of like.
It is the only change the Steel Avenger basically ever had to its core visual look, so...
It's also very ironic that it looks weirdest clad in steel when it's called the Steel Avenger.
Yeah, I know, right? Or as Mr. Psycho would obviously say in the future, the Polycarbonate Avenger, so credit to him for that one. In Series 3, another massive design change, being genuine this time, it didn't actually have a Shreemec. And later on it did. So, but that's about it for the Steel Avenger's design core principles. We'll get to a weapon it did add later on. But in Series 3, it was all about the axe and the feather duster when it was there. And it started life with a very cool interview from John Willoughby showing their two different axe blades, I think it was. And
I mean, to be fair, for for a season 3, that's almost decent.
Oh yeah,
having something interchangeable, that is the future right now.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, Peter Gibson completely overhauled him in Series 4 with about 9 different blades, but we'll give John Willoughby credit here for giving us different axe heads. But anyway, the Series 3 adventure for the Steel Avenger started against Shumi 2, spelt T-O-O. Yes, that's the kind of humour we've got with the Pneumatic Fanatics as opponent.
Yeah, this is a very...
Yeah.
This is a very... If you want to build a case against Robot Wars, you show people fights like these. This is incredibly Series 3. These two bots cannot do a thing to each other. They're just bumping into each other until one of them happens to go near the pit and the other one can capitalise. It is poor fair.
Here's the thing, yeah. It's from what I can tell, I think like Ascumi 2 was like on top for like almost the entire fight until they just kind of go onto the pit and just.
Well,
Ollie,
it doesn't.
Ollie,
Luke,
don't come in here. Ollie is absolutely right. Shumi was robbed. Shumi was robbed. This machine. I know you don't want to give it credit because you have to criticize Series 3.
I don't mind. I don't mind Shumi too. I just don't think it's a shame its only fight was boring.
No,
and bad.
Yeah, but you have to. If you want to convince people you're going to be an all-star, you can't have all your fights being amazing. You have to draw people in slowly. Scoomy as well gave us a decent little introduction. It was on top. Those anti-hammer panels absolutely withstood everything the Steel Avenger threw its way.
It didn't throw anything.
And and in a tragedy equal to Razor Killy Cranky, Shumi just lost a battle it was absolutely dominating at the last moment. Can't believe it.
Well, R.I.P. to
Shumi could have won Series 3.
R.I.P. to Shume Doodoo.
But yeah, the Steel Avenger itself didn't exactly give us the best exhibition of what Axebots could do going forward in the show here. So we'll move forwards. And Luke, can you tell me if its axe made more of an impression against its second round opponent, Dietor?
Absolutely. It knocked off an eye. Much like some famous example of someone getting hit in the... Like Harold like Harold Godwinson or Harder, one of them that got hit in the eye in Hastings. Steel Avenger's primary... I don't even think... I can't remember if it was called Harold now. Steel Avenger's primary weakness here is that with its ground clearance, it genuinely appears in its intro shot to be floating on the ground. And Dietor ain't much of a wedge, but it's enough for that to be a problem.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
They do a wild... Somehow what Dietor does a wild thing here to Steel Avenger, which I think says more about Steel Avenger than Dietor.
Yeah, at this point in time, I'd say so, though. To be fair, Dietor was a pretty decent Series 3 machine, so we'll try and split the credit, I guess. But in this fight, you can see one thing that Series 3 Steel Avenger doesn't exist. As well as pretty standard wheels at the back of the machine, it also has two casters at the front. Very narrow, very small, and that's exactly why the Steel Avenger just swings around all the time in Series 3. I mean, it's hard enough to drive as it is. I mean, they did upgrade the machine to standard 4 tyre drive, but with two casters at the front, you're just asking to fall off Dietor like it's a Series 1 or 2 gauntlet ramp.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, they had to gear Steel Avenger down as well in subsequent series, which, yeah, tells me they probably had it a bit too high for those caster wheels to be handling.
With it being their debut series as well, you can understand little chinks and things they had to iron out properly, but yeah. Ollie, did you want to say something?
I just want to say that this battle is just...
It's no Shumi versus Steel
sad.
Avenger, is it?
No, because it's good. No, because it ends satisfyingly.
Yeah. No, but a shout out to the Steel Avenger in Series 3. Most people would assume that this is its final involvement in Series 3, but you would be unaware that it appears in an edited-in piece of footage during Dietor's, I think it was the International League run. I can't even remember who it was against now. But basically, Dietor faced somebody who I can't remember. And then the show edited this, because in this fight against the Steel Avenger, Dietor obviously goes on fire. And in the International League, Dietor had a fight. I think it won it quite comfortably. I can't remember who it was against, so I do apologise. Good research. But, yeah, and then because you can't have a Dietor fight end normally, they then decide to take the footage of the Steel Avenger fight where Dietor's on fire take it from that battle and put it in this random International League fight. So it looks like Dietor's on fire again in this International League fight. But the reality is, they just took the footage from the Steel Avenger fight and put it back in, acting like nobody would notice, and overturn Steel Avenger in the background.
I mean, at least they did that, and they didn't chuck in the footage from like Firestorm versus Dietor. So Dietor's just triumphant 1 second, the next it's upside down.
I'm surprised they didn't just use the Nemesis gauntlet footage or something. And then JP still wouldn't notice, let's be honest. Oh dear. But yeah, the Steel Avenger was also due for another appearance in Series 3 in the Tag Team Terror event with our famous friend, or unfairly slandered friend should I say now, More Pandemonium. However, the event was cancelled, and the Steel Avenger didn't get to show off its axing capabilities again in a tournament which would probably have been dominated by Panic Attack and Razor, which was genuinely going to be a pair as well.
Yeah, I feel, yeah.
Why would you allow that?
Well, that's just a free Razor tournament win, isn't it?
Whoa, Mike, where'd you come from?
Right. So, anyway, on to Series 4, I think. And the Steel Avenger comes back here with a more standard Steel Avenger look, shall we say. In other words, it added polycarb this time. And a self-writer. Yeah, it was in Heat M. And its first fight was against Wild Thing and Humphrey. Now, I'm not going to discredit Wild Thing or Steel Avenger, but those two in a fight with cannon fodder doesn't exactly make for entertainment. Like, you think of Hypnodisc, for example, destroying the Predator and Razorblade, or Chaos 2 dominating the opening melee of the series. But here, the most damage you hope for is from Wild Thing's Spike, because as we'll come to see in a future fight, Steel Avenger's not going to axe anything properly in Series 4.
No, yes. This fight is basically the Heat final, spoiler alert. If you also had a Humphrey in there, Wild Thing just doesn't pay any attention to Humphrey and bullies Steel Avenger around, and Steel Avenger's just lucky there's another robot in there that's really bad. There's nothing.
Yeah, no, it's just luck again.
Nothing to it.
Humphrey was robbed.
Yes, I'm sure the Dietor team sabotaged Humphrey in the pits, and that's why it didn't work fully. Or they just borrowed one of the batteries from the Evil Weevil team. But yeah, absolutely.
Either one is entirely possible.
But the most damage genuinely caused in this fight came from Matilda. Now, if this was in, say, Series 5 Extreme onwards, you'd be like, well, Nick, that's not surprising. She's got a flywheel. But here, she's got a chainsaw, and it's still not the chainsaw that does the damage. The damage I'm mentioning is Matilda's tusks flipping the Steel Avenger's feather duster. Yeah.
Alright, I think we can move. I think we can move straight on from there into the fight.
So, as I mentioned previously, Steel Avenger doesn't exactly get many good axe blows in Series 4, and this is the prime example of that. It misses so many attacks during this fight against this sluggish, domey, tall Sacromalot that Jonathan Pierce ends up just taking the mick out of it with multiple "down comes the axe" missed lines in a row. Yeah, and you know when Jonathan Pierce is taking the mickey out of you that the fight isn't exactly going to plan.
But, like, here's the thing, like, it's not the, axe head that's hitting, a Chromalot. It's his, axe arm.
When Jonathan Pierce is,
which is, somehow much even worse than, I guess, missing entirely.
Chromalot's a small base. The base hub of Chromalot is pretty small, so it's not surprising that the X kind of overshoots.
The Chromalot isn't the easiest target for the Steel Avenger to hit in terms of its arm length, but it just kind of shows up the immediate design flaw with the Steel Avenger, where its front is pointed. So whenever it makes contact with a circle, it just pushes the circle aside, and then its axe arm obviously doesn't hit anything because it's just moved it out of the way.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't make a difference even if it hit, because, I mean, Steel Avenger has trouble damaging, like, plate armor. It was not going to do anything to the thick metal of the hub.
As, like, modestly received as the Steel Avenger's axe is, it won't be until really later on in this podcast that we'll see some genuine damage from it. But luckily for it, well, not luckily, there's nothing lucky about beating Sacromalot. It did end up winning this fight through one of the very, very rare pittings in Series 4 that caused a KO. Sacromalot was just waggling its lance, if we'll call it that, or drill, or whatever, and then the pit was opened and Steel Avenger took a pitting. I mean, we saw an unedited fight or two from Series 4 with Iron Ore, and you just imagine what the unedited version of this fight would be like if they had to open the pit.
Do you really want to imagine the unedited version?
I don't, because it would just be...
That's a cure for insomnia.
It would just
right
be
there.
even more down comes the axe missed lines from JP, but yeah, I don't think we were missing too much. But nevertheless, the Steel Avenger has somehow reached a heat final without really doing much. I mean, it got bullied by Wild Thing and didn't exactly cause a KO to the machine that lost in the melee. And then it beats Sacromalot by moving around and trying to use its weapon. I mean, that's about the standard you did need around Series 3 or 4 time to be a heat finalist in some heats. Looking at you, Razorblade and Terrible. But as Luke said, the heat final comes around, and it is basically what we saw in round 1, with Wild Thing being more manoeuvrable, a better design to push, more nimble, and the Steel Avenger also ended up not being able to self-right as well.
Alright, so but you could probably put the meta here instead of this fight, and it would just make no difference whatsoever.
Absolutely. I mean, as Luke said, it's pretty much the same fight, but we actually get a KO on the Steel Avenger this time. Wild Thing, it's just a design that is much more suited to win this type of fight. I mean, as Luke said in Series 3, the Steel Avenger has a high ground clearance anyway. And they didn't exactly rectify that here. I don't think they ever rectified the Steel Avenger's ground clearance. And, John Willoughby's not a bad driver, but Nick Adams is good. The axe wasn't going to outdo a wedge. It's not a bad heat final, but it's this heat as a whole, really. It's just kind of forgettable.
Yeah. So after that, I don't believe Steel Avenger had any Christmas specials or anything. I mean, I hope it didn't, because I didn't actually watch them.
Well, you should have been doing your research, son, because no, it didn't go in the celebrity special.
Well, because it's a good thing that, of course, after this, there was a extra for a 20 kilograms for the team to work with for the I guess for the next build of the robot.
Well, I mean, I'd try and make the normal joke of they added more polycarb, but I mean, they may have. It looks like they did around the wheel area a bit more, but they did add a little lifter at the back, and it was an interesting way to add versatility to the robot, to say the least. Yeah, I'm not sure if it was the optimal route to take with the 20 kg extra, but with this really long body and a really long axe, how do you really add 20 kilograms effectively?
Yeah, the rear lifter is a strange choice, but yeah, as you say, what else are they gonna
it's a bit
do?
like Mute,
I mean,
where its rear lifter isn't bad at all, but it's not that viable. If they use it during a fight, they can get underneath a robot, but it really is just like getting stuck on the arena spikes for 1 second or something. It doesn't really hinder the opponent in many ways.
There's some faith, Dick. I'm sure they could get out of the arena with that lifter.
Yeah. If the whole heavyweight Steel Avenger was just dropped in on the Antweight fight. I think it was pants flying out there, and flying in is the Steel Avenger.
I mean, the thing is though, even though it doesn't seem like it's improved, even though there's 20 what on paper they've done with the 10 kilograms doesn't seem like much. I swear, in its Behemoth fight, this fight where it spends most of it getting just, where Behemoth's just trying to find the place where where Steel Avenger won't somehow self-right, whether that's by its self-right, a refbot coming in, or just tumbling off the wall. It's still a more impressive performance than in both of the previous series.
Oh, absolutely. This is one of the Steel Avenger's best performances, full stop, I'd say, even though it does end up losing it. It's aggressive. It's pretty well driven considering it's against a wide scoop, and it uses the axe decently on the top of Behemoth. It causes some damage to Finn Polycarb, and the battle is an insanely long edit as well, though. It's like 3 minutes long, I think.
Jeez.
Yeah, but it's a good fight. It's always one of those fights where it goes under the radar, and then you see the first episode of Extreme again. Then you wonder why the hell this is the main event. Then you wonder why the hell.
Yeah.
Just about to
you wonder why the hell they got the stats wrong of Steel Avenger losing in round 1 in series 3 and 4, and then you realise that it's a pretty decent fight, all told.
Well, I mean, the build-up to the fight is pure extreme. You've got a blatant line about Steel Avenger's record, like JP bigging them up on absolutely no grounds, and then at the end of the Steel Avenger videotape, there's a record scratch.
I forgot about that. That's amazing. Oh God,
yeah,
I forgot that existed. I'm so happy you brought that up.
But here's my question: why was this headlining battle of Extreme Episode 1?
Well, I mean, you figure they'd chuck in like the Chaos 2 fight or something.
Yeah.
Because there's a chance have their Tombstone versus a Minotaur, but instead we've got Behemoth versus the Steel Avenger. It's just
I think the main objective for Extreme was to really try and push Behemoth into that elite bracket, because it did well in the first World Championship, which was obviously a commercially successful episode of Robot Wars, and then it kind of fell short in Series 4, so they probably, because Behemoth has a unique look and it's been in the show for a while, they probably wanted to give it that proper chance again, and I guess putting it in the first episode of a series would help that exposure, but...
Then in which case, have its fights against a Stinger be the a main event instead.
Yeah.
That is a much bigger name. It'll be much more impressive.
I think the problem is that it's obviously the challenge belt. It's a thing that runs throughout the whole of Extreme, so you kind of have to have it in episode 1. But yeah.
So was the Stinger fight? That was also the challenge belt.
Yeah, I know, but you have to the main point of the challenge belt was to kind of face a decent robot first, and then a grand finalist from Series 4. But
so that's a Tornado, man. They fought grand finalists back to back.
Yeah, Ollie, Tornado fought Come and Getorix. When did that get to a semi-final?
Probably someone's said a terrible a fantasy tournament.
Yeah, probably your fantasy tournament.
You probably are wrong.
Hey, but guys, can we? Nick was just insulting the Steel Avenger plow, and yeah, that is the only thing that gives them any chance in this fight, where they're pushing Behemoth around for weirdly long. Like, you keep thinking, Behemoth, surely you can get off that plow. It's not even that, like, it's not even stuck in that much. What are you doing, Behemoth?
Yeah, Behemoth's a weird machine at times. It gets bullied by things you don't expect it to. Like, it faces Terahertz with that broad, wide, low front wedge in Series 8 and beats it, obviously, because of the axe problem. But then against a pointed, narrow front, well, it takes 3 minutes for it to get the KO. Oh, blimey. And then it gets bloody KO'd by CV. Oh, God. Oh, but that's for the Behemoth podcast, isn't it, boys?
Oh, can't wait for that one. 3 bloody parts, and I'm in all of them.
Well, I want to say one thing, because I think we should leave the Mayhem and the Annihilator for last, because the Mayhem is worth talking about. Can I just say, watching the Steel Avengers fights in this tag team was one of the most grueling things I've ever done for a podcast. These are so woeful. Apart from... Well, they're woeful up until the final fight, but that's not good for anything Steel Avenger does.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like, this is the thing. The Steel Avenger, by this point in Extreme, has kind of solidified itself as a bit of a mainstay on the show. You know, one of those Smidsy tier robots that everybody kind of likes the look of. It's quite visually nice.
It's perfect middle tier robot.
But by this point, it hadn't really had a string of performances that convinced you it was a good robot. And something like Smidsy, it stood up to Panic Attack really well in Series 4 and really got its way through to the Heat final. But, I mean, I say that like Smidsy doesn't absolutely balls up the tag team itself in Extreme 1. but yeah, the Steel Avenger has a couple of good opportunities to really dominate fights in this tag team tournament, and it doesn't in the first two, and in the final, which we'll get to.
Defeat
yeah, exactly. And in the final, which it gets to, which we'll talk about in a minute, it doesn't cover itself in glory either, does it? But
no, we get the rematch nobody asked for.
We get multiple rematches.
Alone is like why they lost that fight.
Yeah, absolutely. But
and that's just kind of.
You think if you're a vengeance addict on Robot Wars, I mean, who isn't a fan of the likes of Come and Getterix challenging a superior machine and bigger brother to a vengeance and losing easily? Here in the tag team tournament, the Steel Avenger reprises such amazing fights with Sacromalot from Series 4 and Diosaur from Series 3 again. Yeah, incredible.
The Chromalot one is especially fun.
Yeah, I mean, what is the worst fight? Steel Avenger Sacromalot Series 4 or this?
I watched this fight like 2 hours ago and it's just like I cannot remember anything.
I thought you were going to defend it for a second. I was going to end the call right there, but I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, there's a I can't even remember which one it was in. It might have been Chromalot. There's a moment where all 4 robots are just near the middle of the arena, kind of bumping into each other, and Jonathan Pierce, God bless him, he's trying. He comes out, this is absolute mayhem. Like, I don't think I've ever seen 4 robots in the arena so just fizzle out so poorly.
Yeah.
I don't know what the opposite of mayhem is, mate, but ooh,
mundane.
Yeah, this is absolute mundanity.
Do you want a mundane?
Well, okay, so put a credit to Steel Avenger where it's due.
Where?
In its second fight.
Where?
Nowhere in this fight. Nowhere in this.
In its second fight, and of course,
Thermidor breaks down and Cerberus is pretty bad.
Let me have its moment, okay? It like one hit KO's Thermidor, okay?
Oh,
I don't get
it one hit KO's Thermidor. Come on. That's like saying, I don't know, Great, I'm going to have to think of an example on the spot of a really obscure KO that didn't actually happen.
Let's move on quickly before I can
That's
think
like
of one.
saying Razor KO'd Carbide. Oh. But doesn't Thermidor...
Well, you don't
I
need...
will want to give it credit where it's due, Ollie. But doesn't Thermidor just literally go over the flame pit, die, and then the Steel Avenger axes it and pretends it gets the KO? I think you've had a bit of a Mandela effect there.
Oh no, JP, what have you done to me?
Look at the damage!
You don't... We don't need to cast around in the tag team for moments to give Steel Avenger credit, because it gets credit in its mayhem.
That is true.
Does it though?
Oh, well,
I mean,
I'd
okay.
give it credit.
Steel
You'd
Avenger
give it credit if
you...
it like landed one KO blow on like the angle grinder, but
Steel
King
Avenger
B kills Tornado. Okay, right. Let's all just establish that.
Yeah, and then Steel Avenger kills King B. I mean, on paper, right, Steel Avenger is the least likely winner here. Because, I mean, you've got Tornado, and then you've got... If you weren't going to go with Tornado, you'd say, oh, maybe Tornado craps out now. King B pulls something off. It's the other big pusher in the fight. But no, it's Steel Avenger, baby.
yeah. I mean,
guess.
we'll just say the tag team final, Steel Avenger got absolutely bullied. If you wanted closure on that, guys.
Yeah, it's just sad. Let's just not talk about it.
Yeah, but the mayhem, I'm gonna have to side with Luke, I'm afraid here, Ollie. I do agree that the Steel Avenger gets picked on a lot, but in this fight, it does show a real good amount of tenacity. It keeps up with the pace of the fight. It tries to land axe blows. It tries to ram. It's still fast, and eventually it gets in a hit, not with its axe, guys, with its front plow.
But it's into his fair wheel. Yeah, I kind of forgot about that.
Yeah, it takes off
I'll
the
be
wheel,
honest.
and I get that's more down to King B not attaching it properly or general build quality, but
But it still takes the
a thing
wheel
that
off.
happens, yeah.
I'm just a bit aghast at Ollie forgetting the King B KO, but remembering how Thermidor 2 dies.
I like Axis, okay? I
You-
just
you
can't
don't-
buy a
I
Swartz
mean, it's
You
a
Axis.
don't
amazing-
remember that King B lost an entire wheel and then Matilda got Steel Avenger with its flywheel immediately
Okay,
after.
yeah. Okay, no,
But
I
you
remember
remember
that bit.
Thermidor 2 getting donked on after it had already died.
I mean, this fight is kind of weird, just because like Tornado it's like it's the fight of fragile drives. Like Tornado gets a bit of a spike on its left side and dies.
No.
King B's wheel just pops off.
Tornado dies as Tale of the Toaster, our lovely podcast appearer, has said. Steel Avenger KOs Tornado because of recoil.
What the
I was dreading you bringing
Yeah,
this up.
and I try and explain it in depth, but I don't want to because I want all of the listeners to be as confused by that sentence as possible.
But like, yeah, like, no, I guess the big thing about this fight is, of course, like, no, right at the end, good old Matilda comes in and she...
Oh, you remember it now!
I remember it from the start!
Good old
dear.
Matilda
Because
comes in 2.4 seconds after I forgot King B lost an entire wheel.
I was going to ask, was it actually justified?
Was it
Who
justified?
cares? It's extreme.
Pretty much.
Do you really think they?
I honestly can't remember. Was Steel Avenger on the lip of the CPZ? I think it was right on.
I don't
It was on
think
the
s-
warning line, wasn't it?
Wow.
Very outskirts, because I remember Jonathan Pierce saying, "On the warning line, but not inside the CPZ," or something along those lines.
Wow. Well, I went through this shot frame by frame,
Oh.
and it turns out that a tiny bit of
See the
its
exact
front ram.
moment Ollie remember this happened.
You know what? I'm not even gonna keep going because because that's an incredible retort. So I'm just not gonna ruin that. So
A victory, and so a victory in this mayhem puts them through to the Annihilator. And I just want to say one thing about this: they deserve to go further than Nightmare, just for getting armour that fits
I was
properly.
going to say, what, Nightmare from BattleBots? That's a bit of a dismissal, but then I remembered...
That would have been incredible, Annihilator. Holy shit, I want that
then
now.
I remembered you were talking about our old fan favourite, Spirit of Nightmare. And yes, alongside that machine, we also had Fighting Talk, Napalm 2, and then Disco Inferno and Panic Attack for a bit of respectability here.
Do you want to know one thing I noticed though that I don't like about Steel Avenger?
The fact that it doesn't cause you memory loss.
The guy who's not a Willoughby, his armour has a nipple ring that's a
No,
sword.
come on. I was going to bring this up at some point, but you have called me into action. Tony, he has the best gear of the lot, because his is black, his outer armour. The other two are boring old silver grey, but his is black. Come on.
Well, like I said, at the very least, they're not wearing armour for 7-year-olds like the bloody Nightmare team.
Doesn't one of the Nightmare team hold like a really small plastic sword as well?
Yeah, it's just like, oh, you shouldn't have bothered, lads. You really shouldn't.
It's kind of like social suicide to appear on Robot Wars in the first place, but to appear on Robot Wars with a plastic toy sword. You
really can't do much worse.
That's just your funeral there and then, with the grand final theme playing at it. I mean, come on. Oh dear.
I could go further, but it just turned into slagging off the Nightmare team. So I think we should just discuss Steel Avenger's actual performance, of which there is nothing to discuss.
There is literally nothing to talk about here. It just kind of exists and it just happens.
I mean, it spends most of round one just attacking Hippopotamus, because that's the obvious target.
You mean Fighting Talk?
Oh.
You mean no one cares what it's
and
called?
then
Come on.
It has the absolute ignominy of being a robot in this Annihilator that doesn't fall to Disco Inferno, but gets flipped by Spirit of Nightmare.
Absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, you could hear, like, Panic Attack pulls out of this Annihilator at one point, and Kim credits both the Steel Avenger and Disco Inferno for that. You start to respect the Steel Avenger as, you know, really building its way up. It's got through a fight with Tornado. It's got the better of King B, another veteran. It's now making its way through the Annihilator. It's taken out a champion. And then it gets KO'd by Spirit of Nightmare. You couldn't make it up. Oh. And the thing is, it could have got to an Annihilator final. But it didn't. It had such a chance. It's a better machine than Spirit of Nightmare, but you can right yourself once or twice against Behemoth, but one flip from Spirit of Nightmare and you KO'd.
It's like if you narrowly avoided getting hit by a car and then slipped on a banana peel to your death. The most credit I can give it is Disco Inferno immediately after gets like some lunges in and gets a hit on it. So maybe
true.
that did
that
the
is
job.
true, yeah. And any way to discredit Spirit of Nightmare, hey?
We'll take anything we can get ready.
Yeah, pretty much. I think this whole podcast is just going to be have to be called the "You Have to Give It Credit" podcast at this rate, because the amount of times we're trying to give Steel Avenger praise. Oh dear.
Unfortunately, we're not about to give it much more praise either. Not for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, because next up is Series 5, and it fights a joke. It just fights an
Ollie,
absolute joke.
Ollie,
What?
it just fought Spirit of Nightmare.
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry. I meant if I say a
Have
joke
you forgotten
which isn't
again?
That's its real weapon. Memory loss.
The 101 curse and the Steel Avenger memory loss curse. Oh dear, but yes, Steel Avenger is in the opening heat of Series 5. And, you know, it's one of the bigger robots in this heat alongside Smidsy and Chaos 2.
It's number 3 out of 8.
Strange.
You
You've
know,
not seen it.
it's in the upper section.
And I think all of the other 5 are newcomers who mostly never returned.
Yeah,
I mean, you got
I guess
Beast
so.
and like Jono, which like it's still the only 2 people who are still around today. So, what other Series 5 heat can even boast that, Luke?
What I wanna say is it does fight the Tartan Terror, and I think this is gonna be the height of me slagging off Steel Avenger, because Tartan Terror is literally a wooden barrel, and Steel Avenger cannot axe through it.
Yeah, I mean,
I haven't got a joke to
This
add to
was
that. I just wanted to say it.
This was the fight that just like made me like stop liking Steel Avenger, just like flat out.
yeah, I mean, I remember in the past there being a fantasy tournament on the wiki. Bad first sentence to open with, a fantasy tournament on the wiki. And it was the Steel Avenger against Razor. And I do remember the Steel Avenger getting 2 or 3 votes at least because of its axe being able to penetrate Razor's self-writing cable. And I was just thinking, lads, it can't damage a bloody beer barrel. It's not going to snap a wire, as if the axe is that precise to do it anyway. You'd need bloody Ian Lewis at the controls of the axe. But yeah, as Luke said, this battle is pretty disastrous. Not only does the Steel Avenger not give us any fun bits of damage, but the Tartan Terror starts to fight with one side drive.
What is this? More like featherweight or something?
Maybe.
At the very least, though, in its next fight, I'll give it one thing. It does the best thing that a mid-tier robot can do sometimes, and that is let a much better robot kill them in a spectacular way.
Yeah, that is true. And the Steel Avenger does face Chaos 2 in round 2. And as
Very
Luke
harsh
says,
draw, like, oh my gosh.
I mean, yeah, but to be fair, would you fancy it against Smidsy either? Maybe.
It would be like slightly better draw for the like narrative, you know. It's kind of like
Absolutely.
Robots kind of like take on the champ.
Absolutely. I'm not saying that Smidsy would have ooted Steel Avenger or anything, but
Well, no, because Steel Avenger would oot at them.
Exactly, man. With the lifter.
Well, yes, the battle of Smidsy's jaws for the ooter or Steel Avenger's lifter. And then we're just all sleeping on Beast here, lads. Come on.
Yeah, that's true.
Funnily enough, that probably is the second most likely to get an ooter in round 2. But yeah, the actual fight against Chaos 2, it's one of the fights that you'd want to see in the opening heat. A proper drawn out fight, lot of pace to it, good attacks. Even the Steel Avenger does land an attack. It doesn't really do anything to impede Chaos 2, but it still contributes to the fight. And then it's a really, really interesting but classy ooter to finish off the fight, really.
As JP would say, it is frantic and balletic.
Yes, I could go with that.
It's just Chaos 2 chucking something about from start to finish in a way that probably most people, having seen Extreme, might have thought Chaos 2 couldn't do anymore. Well, maybe not so much Extreme, but certainly with hindsight they might think. But no, Chaos 2 can chuck Steel Avenger for days, and then it gets one of the better routers, honestly, in classic Robot Wars, because you just see Steel, because usually when they do an ooter, it's out of the side of a wall, so it just kind of hits the outer wall and bounces back. But this one, Steel Avenger's bouncing off everything. It's bouncing off the arena pillar,
and just the
outer
way
wall.
JP also goes, and up and over, just lovely. goes in sync with the way Steel Avenger falls out. So
it's very nice,
I think it's this type of fight that makes me relate the Steel Avenger very much to being a blacksmith type robot from BattleBots, where you're gonna get a probably good drawn out fight against the All-Stars with it, but it probably won't win most of the time because its weapon's not good enough.
Don't you dare compare Steel Avenger to like a blacksmith.
I was going to say you can definitely Steel Avengers acts as about as effective as
Yeah,
Blacksmiths.
and Ollie, you're saying don't compare Blacksmith to Steel Avenger. If anything, it's insulting Steel Avenger. Who has won the more fights? Who has got through a battle with Hippopotamus? Sorry, fighting talk.
Who scored more KOs with the axe? Never mind anything else.
Who has?
It might be Steel Avenger. I think it is Steel Avenger if you don't count like a cluster.
Why are you talking about? Okay, so here's my question: like, why are you talking about like a surviving like a hippopotamus? As is of course, so like a blacksmith like wouldn't be able to survive that robot.
No, Hippopotamus is a spinner.
That's true.
So Steel Avenger has beaten more spinners than Blacksmith by KO.
God damn it!
Wait, was the Four Horsemen a KO in the end? I can't remember.
No, it wasn't judges.
Oh bloody hell! Of course it was.
So that's a good one for that's a good one for the comments. Bring up any evidence of Blacksmith having a better axe.
Comparatively, we're not saying like. We're not saying in a 1v1 fight that Steel Avenger would penetrate Blacksmith's AR 500 or anything, but yes. Nevertheless, the Steel Avengers Series 5 campaign is kind of over, and its Extreme and Series 5 campaigns as a whole probably is its highest point in the show.
Nah, that's to come, I think.
You know, when it was considered the most relevant, its best performance we'll get to, but I'd say its stock was the highest in Series 5, where people thought it could compete enough, whereas in Series 7, as we'll get to, obviously it was considered outdated and they'd brought it out from retirement, but yeah, nevertheless, we'll get on to the fact that it wasn't in Series 6.
Yeah, the Willoughbys were, I think they were during this time intending to build Steel Avenger 2.
Yeah.
And, spoiler alert, Steel Avenger 2 I don't think ever got properly completed, even after this. Well, I think there was a version knocking about at some time, but by then the Willoughbys had long since retired basically from Robot Combat.
Was it intended to be like some kind of, like a spinning axe thing, kind of like
No.
Oh no, yeah, I was like confusing with that. So like a Killatron thing for like Series 7 that was like rumored.
Spinatron, yeah.
No, it was it had a big lifter scoop up front, and then what was probably a beefier.
Yeah,
I think it was just the Series 7
just
axe.
a generally more conventional design for an axe to be effective. Really, it's a bit of a shame it didn't get completed, but at the same time, it's Steel Avenger, man. It deserved its last hurrah that it eventually got in Series 7.
I mean, we're going to move on to Extreme 2, and it gets a bit of a hurrah.
Well, I was just going to say, I was about to just say beforehand, because it wasn't in Series 6, do we think there's any heats, or what heats, would it have got furthest in? Would it have won any? Would it have got to any heat finals? How many do we think? Let's just do a quick rundown of that.
Alright, well, it's not winning any. Let's clear that
Well, I
up
mean,
right
Chaos 2 can't self-right now, you forget. It can't self-right at all, so once flipper gets...
Never can Steel Avenger most of the time.
When Steel Avenger gets the lifter in, it's all over. Put it against the arena wall. Can't self-right.
Steel Avenger with a strong hit on Bigger Brother's weak top.
Well, I mean, Cat 3 penetrated Bigger Brother, so...
True.
But yeah, what else have we got then? So in Heat A, against Raging Reality, well, it lost to Spirit of Nightmare. And it's not beating Razor,
I don't think
apart from if it snipes the self-writing...
Alright, but how... Okay, but what the... That's the thing I don't get about the hypothesis. What, they're going to get the real
one of the votes.
Ian Lewis,
one of the votes was literally
Ian Lewis,
Steel Avenger's going to outdrive Razor, hit the self-writing cable, get to the sides, use the lifter, and put it over so it can't self-right.
I'm sorry, is Ian Lewis... is Ian Lewis asleep during all
No,
this?
he's driving the Steel Avenger.
Oh dear. Yeah, I'm not sure what heat I see them getting. Maybe at the very most S3s, but that's only because S3's heat isn't exactly like.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
better.
S3's heat is a bunch of Steel Avenger tier robots.
Pretty
than
much,
S3.
yeah, that's the best way to summarize
I
it. Like,
guess
it's
they
better
don't-
than Shredder and the Alien, so...
I guess if they don't run into a terahertz, they could have a shot at a heat final of their heat.
Well, yeah, but does terahertz just die or something? You'd have to face it eventually.
Final, mate.
Oh, okay, I apologise. So you're saying, like, if A kill didn't exist?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say it could beat Panic Attack Gold. I mean, it did damage to the standard Panic Attack, so yeah. Though I think we'd see a rather big outclassing in axes in the heat final. Yeah.
Quite. I think John Reed would go somewhere towards making Steel Avenger 2 a necessity.
Yeah, that would have pushed him over the line. What about... Here's an interesting one. Steel Avenger, how would it fare against the Series 6 Wild Thing?
God,
I think it could have a shot in that.
To say.
I think it could have a shot.
Maybe. I mean, Wild Thing's only hope is that it can rack up damage points, but I mean, I'm not putting much faith in that.
And they're both...
Yeah, Steel Avenger
Yeah,
might have
because
that,
Wild
but
Thing
I mean,
normally wins fights through just lasting the distance and grinding the opponent down, but Steel Avenger's pretty good at
what's
that.
there to grind down?
If you don't flip it.
Yeah.
Um,
As long as that heat, as long as it doesn't come across 259.
yeah. I mean, it will take a lot of damage to Vader, but
But it's not gonna go after
Vader's exploitable.
Vader, Vader's not exactly reliable.
Like,
so.
if the Steel Avenger, say, took Agrobot 3's place in round 2, and Wild Thing still beats 259, and then Wild Thing and Steel Avenger meet in the heat final, you never know. But then, having said that,
Steel Avenger again.
having said that, Steel Avenger would have then faced 259 in the melee, and probably gone head into it and got wrecked, so...
Yeah.
What about
Yeah.
Heat F?
Heat F. The heat against the likes of Stinger and 13 Black, yeah?
Yeah. 13 Black Heat.
Yeah, I'm going for
I reckon that's
Black.
their best chance in Series 6 to get to the semi-finals just flat out.
No, I still think the Vader Wild Thing heat's a more viable semi-final route, because I think 13 Black's better than it, but it could be... It's better than Stinger in a one-on-one, potentially. Potentially.
I mean,
Yeah.
hey,
Spoilers, don't give spoilers yet.
I was gonna segue.
Yeah, guys, if you haven't seen Robot Wars Extreme 2, then I'm not entirely sure why you went the entire length of listening to an episode about the Steel Avenger on a podcast. That's a pretty niche thing to do, but go watch it, guys.
I mean, to be fair, Luke, what series was it that you hadn't watched fully in a while? There was a series you said you hadn't watched.
It might have been Extreme 2.
It probably was considering just how little time ago that you uploaded it.
That's true, actually. So, Luke, you started the podcast without having watched all of Extreme 2. You have just called out yourself.
Aren't you the leader of this history podcast?
Do as I say, not as I do.
That
All
is
right.
true. A man of advice, but he'll take his own course in life. But anyway, yeah, the Steel Avengers screwed against Tornado. Probably wouldn't beat Anarchy unless it's spun on the spot and caused damage.
It's good. I mean, if a good ram can take out King Bee's wheels, it can take out King Bee's partners.
I
heavily
thought you were
protected
gonna
legs.
say. I thought you were gonna say it's just gonna knock off the legs one by one. Just ram them all off. Oh dear. To be fair to it, Heat H, Supernova, it will probably get wrecked by, but Spawn again?
See, the tragic thing is, I can see Steel Avenger bullying them, and then Spawn again working for exactly one flip, and Steel Avenger fails to self-right.
Yeah.
Tell me you can't
Yeah,
see
good
it.
shout.
Absolutely see that.
Good shout. Yeah, absolutely. We'll go with that. Heat I, Ollie's covered in good depth. Heat J, Dominator 2 versus Steel Avenger is such a weird fight. I mean, Dominator 2 would win.
Yeah.
Hydra wins.
But
Mitzi
like,
would win.
would either of them hit each other with their axe points? It would just be their axe arms hitting each other because they're so long and narrow.
I mean, if Dominator 2 did it, you could notice. If Steel Avenger hits it, how would you know? It's just gonna slide down.
That is
You would
true.
know
Yeah.
because like a JP like really oversells it. That's how you would know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hydra. I mean, no.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Barbarous
Maybe.
probably gets flipped over
potentially.
and can't self-right.
Yeah. There's also that possibility.
Hypnodisc, while it snipes the Shreemek and flips it over.
It does all this in the pits before Hypnodisc has been turned on.
Yeah. In Heat L, Steel Avenger gets its revenge on Bearmoth in the melee, then beats Bigger Brother because of the weak top, and then faces Major Tom in the Heat final or something, I don't know. Yeah, it's not beating Disco Inferno or Bigger Brother. And then that will cover it.
Yeah,
So,
I think we can move on from there.
to be fair to it, to give it credit, the
won
Steel Avenger would hold its own okay still in Series 6, I'd say.
It would do about as well as you'd expect. As well as
It would do about as well as it did in Series 7, maybe.
Whoa,
Yeah.
Nick!
But
Wait,
before
we
then...
got Extreme 2.
Yeah, we do.
And yet
we do have
another
Extreme 2.
Tag Team Terror. Oh joy!
Yeah. In this version of the Tag Team Terror, the Steel Avenger realises that it will never make a Tag Team Terror entertaining, so it tries to make it entertaining by being bad. And by being bad, I mean it gets a KO on a former grand finalist and pits itself immediately afterwards.
Yeah, this brings Steel Avengers recorded wins over grand finalists to 2.
Oh, bloody hell.
Oh shit!
Has a better grand finalist versus record than Panic Attack. Mainly because Panic Attack never faced anybody good, but
No.
but yeah, that's a good little stat. Should put it on the Robot Wars wiki, hey?
Aye.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gets the better. Yeah, as you said, it gets the better of Stinger, and then immediately just pits itself. But thankfully,
Yeah.
Stinger's tag team terror is. This is a grudge match, actually. I just realised.
Oh,
Steel
God.
Avenger versus Nasty Humphrey.
Oh, for goodness
What is
sake.
with these terrible grudge matches?
Like, just imagine if in Extreme 2 they ran out of episode ideas, or like they needed 5 extra episodes, and they came to the conclusion of doing a challenge belt style format of all of Steel Avenger's vengeance opponents facing each other, and then facing Steel Avenger for the ultimate vengeance in the final.
Why?
Like, could you imagine the scenes of a Nasty Humphrey v Steel Avenger title showdown?
I'm just imagining the possibilities to lead up to there. You've got Dietor versus. God, I'm not even sure. Dietor versus Cerberus.
Wild Thing wasn't there.
Oh. Well, that would be a
Suck
vengeance in
Romanov.
itself.
Oh, so it would.
Dietor Cerberus is a vengeance in itself.
So okay, let's see. So we've got Chromalot, Cerberus, Dietor, Napalm wasn't there at this point. Nasty Humphrey, I guess you could say Stinger now.
Your name
Chaos
is.
But
Two.
all of the vengeances have to be vengeances in themselves. So Dietor v Cerberus. Could you make any more?
We could toss in
Tornado Stinger. Tornado Stinger.
Oh yeah.
That's another vengeance for both Steel Avenger and the two facing each other.
And I guess
Chaos
you could also
2
throw in like a Chaos 2 in like that one because like it makes a three-way vengeance match.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that'd be great.
And I can't
Stinger.
imagine the wiki would love that.
Oh yeah, the Intervengeance Steel Avenger Vengeance episode.
Can we just move on to the second round of the Tag Team Terror now?
I think
Yeah,
we're describing right
because-
now the lowest
because-
rated episode in the series, and I include the reboot.
Because just to give a shout out to the rest of that round one fight, none of you Robot Wars... Sorry, that sounds like a JP line. None of you Robot Wars veterans would have wanted to watch the Steel Avenger versus Stinger. We had to be treated to Lightning v Nasty Humphrey for 2 minutes for that fight.
I just skipped that entire part. I'm not even ashamed to say that.
Yeah, but nevertheless, Steel Avenger's team do come out with a very dominant victory and face Bulldog Breed and Robo Chicken in the second round.
Yeah, this fight has one of JP's less proud moments where Lightning is stuck on the wall, Steel Avenger comes out to freedom, and JP's like, now, Steel Avenger shouldn't have gone out there. They should have waited for Lightning to tag. Like, do you think Lightning was doing that, was being stuck on the arena wall as like a tactical move?
I think they're trying to draw them in the old rope-a-dope.
It's times like this that Lightning could do with an axe on that base plate.
I mean, to be fair, JP isn't exactly not known for being a bit unaware of immobilizations in Lightning fights. I mean, the Heat final where Gravity chucked Lightning around all around and was getting counted out by Refbot, you just had JP going, oh, are they trying to draw Gravity in here? I don't know! Oh, or are they just finished?
Great tactical driving there from Laurie Calvert.
Missing the X-blows. But yes, the Steel Avenger itself here, it can't rely on its teammate because they get pretty badly outclassed by Bulldog Breed, which comes in with some strangely competent driving from Tony Summerfield.
Well, I mean, the thing is, Lightning's out from nearly the first attack in this fight, but Steel Avenger still isn't involved till halfway through.
Yeah,
that's just because they're playing by the rules.
Gets involved. That is true, yes. Do we like gentlemanly on Robot Wars?
Here's the thing about the attacking terror. Like, what was wrong with it just being like a normal for like a 2v2?
Yeah.
I just don't get why it couldn't just be
because you can't have mayhem in the Robot Wars arena.
Sort it out, Refbot. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, Ollie, would you trade in Jonathan Pierce's commentary lines during the Series 4 tag team?
That's true. I took out enough fights that may say he had like a massive deal of course, like, no, the rules being broken. Even though they are broken, every single tag team terror fight.
Does it? I mean, per Steel Avenger here, it's against two flippers that could beat it one-on-one, and it
incredible thing to say about Robo Chicken before Series 7, but yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, Robo Chicken gets the KO on Steel Avenger here.
Amazing.
Like Bulldog Breed's busy trying to flip Growler in a way that kind of surprises me that they didn't end up with their flipper arm horribly bent out of place.
Yeah. But yeah, incredibly, Steel Avenger repeats the Spirit of Nightmare by being KO'd by a rather modest flipper again. I'd call Robo Chicken's flip a good thrust, but the reality is that it lifts Steel Avenger up so slowly that the Steel Avenger ends up just falling off Robo Chicken's flipper. But, you know, credit to Robo Chicken, it did get in another attack after that, and the Steel Avenger, because it's the Steel Avenger, it still can't self-right. I don't get it. I don't get that machine at times. What other machine gets KO'd by Robo Chicken and Spirit of Nightmare, but beats Tornado in a KO fight and forces Panic Attack to withdraw?
Probably something like a Behemoth, you know? It's just kind of like...
Probably something like Cherub.
Yeah, that's it, Cherub.
But yes, an interesting Extreme 2 for Steel Avenger's return after a series away. Would you consider Extreme 2 a success for it? I know it's only 2 fights, but do you give more weight to pitting Stinger and pitting itself, or more weight to it losing to Robo Chicken before Series 7?
It's a faint step in the right direction, but it's not a...
It's a Steel Avenger step in the right direction,
yeah,
isn't it?
I think
Where
that's
it,
about right. Because you can't even...
Where it misses with about 10 axe blows and then it moves forward.
It's a step, but it's not a dignified.
You don't even want to give the Stinger pitting too much credit, because I feel like most things could pit Stinger by that point. But I don't want to rag on Steel Avenger anymore. Let's go on to
No, you got to give it credit.
Yeah, let's go on to its best series.
Yep. Because at this point now it's got
Sit back to Series 3.
Nah. I mean, the thing is, because like it's so strange. Because like, yeah, this is when Steel Avenger's supposed to be all outdated, and yet in Series 7, it's doing damage. It's getting KOs.
What
It's
I mean,
going
like,
to
you know,
hit.
you see. Oh, what you see, like, look, some parts were like taken from a plan to like the Steel Avenger 2.
Yeah, they get
That's why it's...
mostly. So it's not like firing and then its arm getting stuck in limply for half of an hour.
I mean, to be fair, I said earlier on that the Steel Avenger doesn't exactly have many design changes visually, but I have to say, hot take here, I prefer the little flicking self-righting arms that they have in Series 7 over those weird pointed breastplate self-righting arms they had before.
It's not a hot take because those...
That is an absolute hot take. I will get absolutely hounded in the comments for that, I assure you.
Nah, those earlier ones looked weird, man.
Yeah, they did.
It's just kind of popping out.
Steel Avenger gets off to a great start in their melee.
Podcast. Yeah, sorry, Ollie, I was talking over you. Go again.
Well, I was gonna pick on this one JP quote that I think unlucky not to be seeded, but then you can't. But then Ming, so yeah, I guess they were.
Yeah.
If they'd been in the previous series, they probably would have got that seed.
I would have been okay with that. To be honest. They're they're a decent enough team. You know, they've won enough fights.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Series 7 was pretty much the veterans series for seedings, so having the Steel Avenger in there would have felt right. I don't necessarily think I agree with it, but then I'd displace the likes of even Smidsy and Bearmoth based on past performance for Supernovas and Disco Infernos to be seeded, so...
I thought you were going to say you would get rid of Bearmoth for Steel Avenger.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Can you imagine the Steel Avenger taking on... Oh, God. How would the Steel Avenger lose to Mute in the same way?
Mute snopes their self-writing and then tips them over?
No, but Steel Avenger would lose.
Battle of the Real Lifters, that.
Absolutely.
But yes, instead of in like a Bearmoth's heat, Steel Avenger is in Storm's 2 heat, where it gets to start fighting Subversion 1.1, Shredder Revolution, and Trax.
Yeah,
yeah,
go on, Luke.
It is absolutely absurd. On paper, the idea that Steel Avenger could KO a decently impressive spinner, but it does exactly that. It straight up beats Shredder Evolution.
Yeah, it targets the threat that's been upgraded from the previous wars, and it's on the back of winning Spin City, may I add.
So many much of an accomplishment.
Yeah, it beat Infernal Contraption.
I mean, I think Shredder Evo was straight up a devolution because that
is harsh.
Mate,
that is just Robot Wars
right?
History Podcast hot takes. They're all coming out.
Come on,
how do you go? More than Bigger Brother.
How do you go from fighting up until your frame is literally too bent for your wheels to touch ground to the Steel Avenger sniping you as if you're Henry II?
That was a given credit.
For goodness sake. Yeah. That's a perfect summarization of the brutal acts that the Steel Avenger developed into Series 7 with. But no, seriously though, it is now at the stage where Steel Avenger's axe in this melee does the job. It targets the biggest threat on paper, and it, despite Shredder's what seem like technical issues, it still comes down with a thud. The axe, it gets stuck in it. It doesn't just bounce off it anymore. So you can see the improvements are there, even if you could say, it faced one okay opponent and then the other two newcomers, so it should get through anyway. But
would you say that it even dominates the melee?
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, yeah, Trax does well. So, and Subversion absolutely bullies everyone, but no, it's just a really good even melee, really. The two who went through were pretty equally impressive. I don't think Steel Avenger dominated, but it still showed it's competitive, and I guess that was its main aim or hope going into Series 7 after they didn't manage to complete Steel Avenger 2. So, yeah, afterwards, it gets dropped into the second round where it could have been facing what would have been a brutal match against Supernova, but instead it faces the equally brutal spinner and flipper of Rhino.
And again,
Wow.
like I said in the previous fight, it's insane to think that the most visual damage we're seeing Steel Avenger do is in Series 7. But
Yeah.
yet it is!
Yeah, and to be fair, if Dominator 2, for example, was doing this damage to Rhino, I know it's not the most heavily armoured, but it's modestly armoured. If Dominator 2 did this type of damage, I'd be praising it a bit. So yeah, I've got to give Steel Avenger some credit here. It's been a bit of a meme in the podcast to give Steel Avenger credit, but we have now reached the point after how long have we been recording for? 1 hour and 13 minutes, where I can genuinely give Steel Avenger outright credit for absolutely dominating a fight.
Well done, Steel Avenger.
It still took a bit too long to KO Rhino, but no, good display. Good display.
Good show.
Do you have any other thoughts on Rhino's spinner?
Ha!
What is that?
It's a
Some
wheel!
sort of a windmill in there. Oh dear, but nevertheless, Steel Avenger has come back from the grave. Not that it's been pitted and has come back to life or anything. It's come back because they were trying to replace it. It's come back to Series 7. It's put on a really... It's most convincing heat performance in its career. And, the skies are looking bright. Most of the veterans aren't in Series 7. Could the Steel Avenger be having a Mighty Mouse opponent in the heat final? Maybe even getting another KO on Thermidor or somebody like that?
No, because it's fighting Storm 2.
Yeah, this is... If you wanted... If I can't think of, it's hard to think of a more stark, example of a robot combat mismatch. You're talking maybe Supernova versus Frostbite. Okay, that obviously, but you've got on one hand the old axe swinging thing that's finally putting a few dents and things, and then on the other you've got this solid brick of just power, just raw power.
Yeah, that's a good point. Steel Avenger feels like it's actually made improvements from before, but
they mean
you take those cute little axe attacks, and as Luke said, you just compare it to what it then fights, and you go from being Steel Avenger's pretty good this series straight to, oh my god, Steel Avenger is so outclassed in the modern day. All in the space of just realising who it's drawn in the heat final, not even the fight itself. You didn't know it was going to go the way it did exactly, but you knew Steel Avenger would get absolutely dominated.
Yeah.
Here's the thing,
how it went.
I'd say this is the most, round-bot victory in, one of the, shows
oh, yeah.
ever.
That's, yeah.
I'd say,
this
is
probably
the round-bot victory of just, the entire sport.
Yeah, I'd probably agree. It's virtually the most iconic. I mean, in BattleBots, you'll always have really impactful raw wedges in the classic series, but they can't get an Uta this type of thing.
And they went as fast as Storm 2.
Yes, a lot of them had a lot of torque. Yeah, a lot of them had a lot of torque to them, but Storm 2 was so fast in such a potentially awkwardly shaped arena for you to get to top speeds in, but Storm 2 just accelerates so much, and as we say, the Steel Avenger just how could it live with it? Like, realistically, you think of fights where, oh, on another day, this robot could exploit this robot's weakness here. Like, the one robot I always think that can't beat another one is Demolisher against Cunning Plan. I feel like that's the only fight in history where the machine just wouldn't beat it based on design. Like, there's nothing that would change based on if both machines work a bit. But this fight is probably right up there too, because Steel Avenger's too high, its axe isn't damaging Storm 2, its flipper's not getting under Storm 2. There's just nothing there for it to do.
No, it's like... basically the only way that it can be a Steel Avenger victory is like act of God. Like,
yeah, if Storm 2 like used its Series 8 motors and burnt down or something.
Oh god, imagine Series 8 Storm 2 versus Steel Avenger.
But nevertheless, that is the end of the Steel Avenger's journey, and
but it didn't all stop there. You know, it had a bit of time on the live circuit.
I mean, they're still trotting it out in the live circuit every now and then.
Not that I know of, actually. Things like kept in a Finley's like a garage now.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. Like in the year 2080 or something, I can imagine like a Steel Avenger shard of polycarb still being for sale on eBay or something.
I mean, like, hey, like, you know, I own that exact shard of like polycarb. I just want to point that out right now.
By 2080, they'll still be fighting.
But yeah, like, you know, the thing about
Steel Avenger versus Blacksmith .49.
But yeah, like his thing about like a Steel Avenger, of course, like, you know, like quite a few of its parts are, of course, like as used in like a John Finley's like a robots now.
Yeah, that's true.
So like a middleweight, and also his newest spinner Galactus. So you know, it lives on in all of us.
Its real lifter mechanism is actually being used in the newest, worst version of Ripper.
Oh dear.
Well, I think Steel Avenger. It had a perfectly middle tier career.
It did.
With all the humiliations and surprisingly good performances that entails.
Yeah, Steel Avenger, rarely a machine that exactly dominated the opponent, but rarely a machine that you'd get a free win against either.
It's the best you can say.
I guess it's like a kind of machine that, of course, like people should like aim to beat when you start out.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. I'd agree with that. You don't always want to aim for Chaos 2 levels, of course. I mean, you would in 2019 because poor old Chaos 2. But yeah, the Steel Avenger level where you're just kind of respected. You win here, you lose to better machines for the most part, and yeah. I mean, to be fair to it, its final record, it lost 8 and it won 11. That's healthy.
That's all you can ask for.
That's very healthy overall.
I mean, like, hey, like, you know, you could certainly give some credit to that.
Very nicely said. So let's give it one final bit of credit and say what our favourite Steel Avenger fight was.
Do I have to say it's Storm 2?
No, what its favourite win was then.
Oh, favourite win, that is different.
How could you do this first?
Might be the Series 7 Melee, I guess.
Yeah, it's probably either that or Rhino.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the Shumi 2, Fight of Shumi 2 won, but yeah.
Like, yeah, like,
I'm sick of the Shumi 2 agenda on this podcast. It's
am I going to be the only person on the Shumi 2 podcast?
Absolutely.
Okay, guys, in the comments, if you want to join me for the Shumi 2 podcast, feel free. I will try and form an orderly queue. I know it will be hot in demand. But, yeah, I'd have to agree. I won't let people go for the Storm 2 fight as the favourite Steel Avenger fight, but the other two Series 7 fights are very valid shouts for good old Steel Avenger performances, I'd say.
I was going to say, like a Chaos 2 anyway, but okay.
Oh, okay, thanks for blowing that out of the water.
Sorry.
But I think that finally gives us a good point to wrap up what's been a rather fun episode. Any last thoughts, Luke?
Do I have any last thoughts?
Any last thoughts on Tony Bond? Is it Bond? I always forget. Tony Bates! Tony Bond was like in the Bulldog Breed team or something. Any last thoughts on Tony Bates' superior outfit?
No, not really.
Oh, come on! We've recorded an hour and a half of the Steel Avenger, and you still can't admit who's got the best outfit in the team.
When is steel? What? Steel shouldn't be black. It should be shiny.
And it's just like not
but...
memorable. It was these shiny ones that you take notice of, because I never even realised he was wearing a black suit of armor until you mentioned it this episode.
You do say that, but imagine a black Steel Avenger would look amazing.
It looked like it's official. It looked like it's Series 5 stats photo.
Okay, yeah, that's true. We probably do have a leak of how it would look. Thank you for tuning in, everybody, and we'll see you for the next episode, whenever it may be. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.